Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of The Hurdle here on the South Harmon Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Matty Kiwoom,
Oh,
episode 86. We're back in the straps. The season is fast approaching, and this week training camp has begun. This past weekend, a bunch of rookies showed up, a bunch of vets have showed up, and today, July 23rd, almost the entire league has begun showing up to training facilities to get training camp underway. Tomorrow, the rest will fulfill, and we'll be full-fledged into training camp season. I'll be boots on the ground in 2 weeks at about 5 camps. We'll have the expo coming up. I know Matty is talking about going to the Patriots camp. I don't know if you said that to anybody or not. I might have just broke that news without even conversing with you. We're live here Tuesday night. Smells good. I can smell the fresh cut grass that I haven't mowed yet, man. The season's here. How are we doing here?
doing great. It feels like every time we blink, we're just that much closer to kickoff. We got training camps full on launching this week. Cannot wait. Like you said, as long as since we're live, I can just say it. As long as the weather holds up, I might sneak up to Foxborough mañana to see opening, to the public and to see this thing, how it plays out. But this is whether it's redraft, whether you're dynasty, doesn't matter what fantasy you're into. This is where you can get a leg up on some of your league mates. Getting in the weeds, knowing a little bit about the coach speak early, the trends, the drum beats, if you will. This is definitely a part of the season where you can get tidbits of information that you use and ram it down your league mates' throats during the season.
It's low key stuff too. It's stuff that general.
Always.
If you're just listening to, your local beat, they're not getting you this. They're not getting you this. They're not getting you tapped in. They're not getting you the boots on the ground coverage where you're learning, what's the rotation for the wide receiver 4 and 5? What's the rotation for, these Jaheim Bells of the world? What's Kelvin Austin look like? You're not getting that from your local beats. So I'm excited for it to get underway. I'm excited to get to Canton for the expo. I'm excited for the season to get here, Matty Kiwoom, and I'm excited to talk through 10 players that we want to watch as we head into NFL training camp. I've been doing a metric ton of mock drafts over at Roster Watch. We're working on some tools over there. I know you're personally working on some redraft stuff. So 10 players to watch during NFL training camp. I'll let you go. I'll let you kick it off with number 10 if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kick it off. And it's a guy that if it's going to come as a surprise to nobody, it's Naji Harris. I got to see if he comes out and he's the lead dog. We all know Mike Tomlin loves Naji Harris. We know Arthur Smith likes big-bodied running backs. But last year, the 52.7% snap share, 56.6% opportunity share were good, not great, not elite volume that we're used to Naji getting. And now, with the new offensive coordinator, the new quarterback situation, I want to see how this plays out. So I'm going to be watching Naji Harris. Is he still the big dog in the backfield?
Are you nervous at all about this Jaylen Warren shit? Because I've been talking to Alex about it a lot, and I'm like, where Najee's going off the board. We've been beating this like a drum the last 2 months. You and I have on these shows, but where Najee's currently going off the board when running simulations, it's like how can you be against a Naji Harris especially in like half PPR or standard leagues? And even in PPR, where he's continually being the target out of the backfield, I know Warren is kind of chopping off into that more than the carries. How can you be out, per se, on a Naji Harris where you don't have to get him until you're not getting him until like the 6th round. And if you do it right, your team is pretty much built and he's going to be a flex. His ADP right now, I'm trying to pull it up, but it's working really fast, very fast, extremely quick. I believe it was around 80. I believe it's where it was, right next to James Conner. I should have had that prepared, but I just he's a tough one for me because I'm all the way in, And I know as soon as I get up to Latrobe in a couple of weeks, all I'm going to hear from the local beat is, yeah, man, Jaylen Warren's the better back. Jaylen Warren's the one that looks best. And I'm gonna do the same. I'm just gonna. Well, this guy's 230 pounds. He's in the best shape of his life, which is exactly what we heard like a week ago, that he was cutting weight and he was ready to go. And he's still going after Aaron Jones, after Ramondre, after Kamara, after Mixon. I don't know. After Kenneth Walker, I don't like that whole tier of backs. Like I kind of like Aaron Jones, but that whole tier of backs, I don't get it. I don't get it from Rachaad White to Naji. I don't understand how Naji's not. This isn't Dynasty. You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't. He should be a late 4th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Here. He's like, I'm with you. Naji will get the carries. Appreciate you, Cooper, for jumping in the chat. Appreciate everybody jumping in the chat. Fizzle, Dynasty Barry, what's up? What's up? Appreciate you guys always jumping in. And but I don't understand. Other than people expecting this offense to suck, and they have no premise of that, other than saying Russell Wilson sucks. Okay. Arthur Smith kind of fucked up Atlanta
last year.
Okay. Like, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. Russ was like, if you look at the last 10 weeks of the season in Denver, Russ dominated. So they add Roman Wilson. They have George Pickens. They got a healthy Freiermuth. The offensive line is completely built back up to where it was. Remember how this offensive line was 3 years ago when they drafted Naji? And everyone's like, holy cow. They drafted this guy. He's going to get killed. And he rushed for 1,000 yards with bad offensive line play. And now it's revamped, rebuilt, and ready to go. And his ADP is sitting here 61 overall in standard scoring. In PPR at the running back position, he's 87. 87.
Brother, I'm with you. And now we're starting to see the ADPs of Naji and Jaylen Warren get pretty damn close. I mean, we always look at the underdog correlation this early because we see it play out a lot in redraft a few months from now. Right now in underdog, we're seeing that Naji Harris is coming off the board at the end of the 6th, where Jaylen Warren is now crept up to the middle of the 7th, half a round difference. And I'm with Cooper here. I think, the projections have it. The trends see it. Najee's going to be the lead back. And sometimes I think in fantasy we get a little too enamored. We filter everything through the fantasy lens, but it's important, especially this time of the year. Let these franchises talk to you. Let them whisper in your ear. Let them tell you how they're feeling, because it's the same reason why we never saw Tony Pollard fire with Zeke there. It's the same reason why we routinely see a guy that we love in fantasy not getting the love, not getting the opportunities, because the coaches, the scheme fits the other guy. And I'm not gonna be the one to be foolish and get a little cute with it. When the writing's on the wall, Naji Harris has been a producer at the NFL level. He's shown that he can be given volume. And Arthur Smith, as we've seen, whether it be in Tennessee or in Atlanta, he will feature a back. He will use a running back. And even if they split carries and it's like the same as last year where it was 52 in the high 40s for Warren, I expect the touchdowns to go up from last year. I expect the catches to go up to stabilize. We saw him as high as 70, 74, I think, receptions as a rookie. We've seen that dwindle, but I think we see that's very much possible that it comes back up to the 50s. Najee's a smasher now at ADP. And I'm going to start really paying close attention as training camp kicks off, that if the trends that I'm predicting start to come to fruition.
I was about to jump to my 9th, but there was a little bit of news that just leaked out of the Raiders. That's it. The Raiders have announced 6 roster moves, including placing Michael Gallup. Not that we were worried about Michael Gallup being in any of our drafts, because he's not really a guy that's in that conversation, but he was signed by the Raiders this year. The Raiders announced 6 roster moves, including placing Michael Gallup on the retired list.
Oh,
retired, not pup, not PUP, not NFI. Hey. Retired.
Hey, well, if you're gonna retire anywhere, I guess Vegas is a hat in place.
Very interesting. They will also have a couple players open up the season on the pup. But my number 9 player is a receiver, and he's from South Carolina, and he's in Carolina right now. Xavier Legette. I just got my credentials that came through from Carolina, and last year going up there to Spartanburg, it was Jonathan Mingo, it was Terrace Marshall. Which one of these guys is going to be the alpha? And similar to Pittsburgh, where everyone's on the Jaylen Warren train. All of the reporters are on the Jaylen Warren train. In Carolina, that player was Terrace Marshall last year. They're going to give Terrace Marshall the opportunity.
Love Terrace Marshall.
They love Terrace Marshall. Terrace Marshall's amazing. And all I heard from these reporters, and I love these guys. I'm not going to name drop them because they're good dudes. So I don't want to piss them off. Jonathan Mingo has been terrible. Terrace Marshall's been amazing. And what did we see during the season? Terrace Marshall did squat dick, and Jonathan Mingo had multiple 10-target games. He wasn't that great by any means, but 10-plus target games. Adam Thielen, of course, is still there. The aging, the Larry Fitzgerald of his generation, something I've been saying for 5 years, and my past employer did not agree with me, but it is what it is because he's still a savage. Deontay Johnson is there now. He came over from Pittsburgh. That's an interesting one for me in seasonal. But the one player I want to see is Xavier Legette. I saw him at his pro day in Columbia up in South Carolina, and he's got the alpha tendencies. There's times where he doesn't track the football well. There's times when he seems like a very, very, very injury-prone player. He's built pretty similarly to a DK, to an AJ Brown. He's literally a DK in AJ Brown's body. I'm interested to see if he's healthy for the next 3 weeks. He stays on the field. And I'm interested to see if he looks like the alpha. Last year, we saw them run way too many dudes with the first team. Laviska Shenault was running with the first team with Carolina last year. It was a mess. I want to see if this is a bona fide split. I want to watch Xavier Legette, and I want to see if he's the alpha in this offense or if they – remember, Mingo was an early second-round pick last year, and he wasn't exactly terrible. And neither Mingo or Legette really produced for the first couple years of their careers in college. You give lump Marshall in there as well. But Legette is from this regime. So I want to see how Xavier Legette performs for the next couple of weeks up at training camp at Carolina.
There's a couple things that are undeniable when it comes to Xavier Legette. First and foremost, like, he is a freak athlete, right? That is undeniable. Second thing is that Dave Canales likes him, right? He moved up back into the first round to get Xavier Legette. And how do they utilize him? That is what is going to be very interesting. And I think we get a little sense of that straight away because they're not going to want to wait around with the development of Bryce Young and his weaponry. I was talking about Deontay Johnson. He was one of my must-draft players. You can get that video out right here at South Harmon FF on the YouTube. But Xavier Legette is the guy, that has a chance, in my opinion, from what I've seen from him in college, what I've seen out of his skill set, and what I've seen out of Dave Canales as a play caller. He could be that 1-2 punch with a DJ. Now, what does that mean for Thielen and the rest? I don't know. But if we start seeing the clips of Xavier Legette being used with jet sweep type things, orchestrating touches, that might be a big value here at the end of round 1, middle of round 2 range for our rookie drafts that still haven't happened yet. Yeah, I know what Mo's saying. Those have happened, but there are some that haven't. And, of course, we get that rookie discount early redraft seasons.
Dynasty Barry has a question. He says, how high were you guys on Xavier Legette in the pre-draft process? My answer to that was not the highest because I love this draft class. I don't even remember exactly where I had him. I could probably pull it up, but it would be dead air while I try to find it. I know it was outside of the top 12. It might have been like somewhere like 16-ish in the class. The problem, like I said, I went to the pro day. I saw him. I was not overly impressed. He had some drops that were eerily back here in my head of Quentin Johnston from the year before that Alex was there live, and the speed wasn't quite on par with what we expected. It was a 5th-year breakout. Again, We were looking for 3. He weighed 227 pounds and just was not as impressive of an athlete as I expected. And the injuries have been with him through his entire career. And when you have muscle bound players, that's something that just comes with it, is this soft tissue stuff. So I was definitely not in on Xavier Legette as a prospect overall in the fantasy streets. I respected him as an athlete and as a receiver, but not somebody that I really attached myself to. Now, in redraft, personally, he's a very good last round 17, round 18. Xavier Legette at the current stage is a good thing. Not many people are drafting right now, but that's where you can get him. And depending on, like I said, the next couple of weeks at Carolina Panther camp, I think he could be a guy that vaults up 5 rounds.
Certainly. And he's going to be the guy that makes the wild plays. I'm not going to have a lot of Legette because I will have a fair amount of DJ Deontay Johnson. I don't know if I want to double tap that wide receiver room, but to answer Dynasty Barry's, or just to add a little bit to that conversation of where I had him pre-draft, he was a faller. That's the best way I can define him. I think I had him as high as 7'8", but he was listed as the next DK Metcalf. He was smaller. He was slower. Yep. He had less. He wasn't as wow on the field as a DK Metcalf. And I just personally cannot stand, discount versions. It's like, yeah, he's like this guy, but smaller. Well, then he's not that guy. He's like this guy, but he's slower. Well, then he's not that guy. So that was kind of hit for me, and he ended up settling. I want to say I was probably right around where you were, maybe anywhere from 13, 14, 15. But again, I do think that, actually I know that he will make plays early on, and we will see his ADP come up. No doubt about it.
All right, Matty, we've gotten through 2 players in 17 minutes. I think we got to kick this thing back down and maybe skip second gear, maybe hit third gear. Let's go to number 8 here.
All right, well, this is our first live show at South Harmon. We had to bring our authentic selves, baby. I mean, what do you want me to do?
I know. I'm just saying it out loud so that I quicken up and you quicken up and we get this thing dialed. We're going to be here for about 3.5 hours is what I'm sensing. And I don't think the chat would care, but your boy might get a little tired if he sits here for 3 hours. So,
all right, let's kick it in third gear. Let's get precise, as we call it. Let's get fucking dialed. The next guy that I'm looking at camp is another a veteran. It's Hollywood Brown. We've already seen the crazy play, Xavier Worthy breaking deep. I mean, we're going to see a lot of explosive plays out of training camp. But for me, I need to see how they are planning on using Mr. Hollywood Brown, because we are seeing his ADP. It's got some helium attached to it. It's got a lot of balloons. It looks like the man from Up's house starting to get above the neighborhood. It's in the 4th round. And if I'm going to invest a 4th round pick in my redraft leagues for Hollywood, I need to know, not just speculate, that they're going to use Hollywood like vintage Hollywood, not just run down the field for 5 targets Hollywood. I need to know that they're using them like Arizona Cardinals Hollywood, where put them inside, put them in motion, orchestrate touches, not be afraid to give them 13 targets in a game. Now, that's hyperbole. But if we see the rapport building with him and Mahomes, and we see the downfield plays, but also maybe even more importantly, the orchestrated plays, the intermediate plays, if we see that connection with him and Mahomes, then I will be more confident in using that 4th, 5th round on Hollywood Brown, knowing that there's massive upside. But until I see what that looks like, this current price tag for me is too high. And I've loved me some Hollywood, have been buying in Dynasty, was prepared to have an aggressive approach as the seasonal leagues approached, but this helium's too much for me. So I need some confirmation on his usage and what they're going to do.
I think Xavier Worthy. So I'm just going to lump this together. I was going to talk about Worthy. He's further down my list. He's on my list. You said Hollywood. I'm saying Worthy. We both want to know how this whole thing shakes out. What I do think is that Rashee Rice owners are going to get cucked in this whole situation because he's sitting there right between them. Brown's ADP right now is 52nd overall in PPR. Worthy's is 66, and Rashee is 62, right between the two, Rashee Rice drafters will get cucked in this whole situation because Rashee may get those intermediate receptions, those intermediate targets, but you can already feel what this offense is going to turn into, right? They trust, obviously, Travis Kelce. He said, yeah, maybe I'll take a few games off during the early part of the season so I'm ready for the run. What's that going to mean? That's going to be more Noah Gray. That's going to be more Jared Wiley. It's going to be more Justin Watson, more of these dependable guys that can work across the middle. The problem with the Rashee thing, for me, is that you now have two burners. And Worthy is prime burner. Hollywood, and you can see this if you pulled up the video. I'm not going to pull any video up right now, but if you pull up those 2 touchdowns, one was from Worthy, I believe, 2 days ago, or maybe it's yesterday, and Hollywood's was today. And you can clearly tell, and again, I'm just right now, I'm just watching on fucking Twitter. Hollywood does not run like a 4-3-1 guy. He looks like not a 4-3-1. No. The Worthy touchdown, there was some separation, continued separation downfield. Hollywood Brown, I don't know. Again, we're splitting hairs right here. But what I'm telling you is if I want either one of these guys, and I've been more Hollywood Brown for the last probably month, but seeing that connection already with Worthy and watching him for a couple of years in college, what do you want me to do? Like, Hollywood has been Mr. Dropsies for the last couple of years, from Baltimore to Arizona to now he's in KC. Like, he hasn't exactly been the perfect wide receiver. Worthy had drop issues 2 years ago. He also had a broken fucking hand.
Yeah, he did. That's
and
true.
Nobody brings it up. They just go, like, people still continue. Like, NFL draft analysts will still say, hey, Xavier Worthy, he had drop issues in college, and then move on. They won't say, but his hand was broken for the whole season.
So he still put up 700 yards or whatever it was.
It's still exactly. I'm flipping it. I'm going Worthy here. I want to see Worthy at camp. You said Hollywood. I want to see Hollywood at camp. I want to see which one of these two guys. That's the answer. I want to see which one of these two guys takes over. I have a feeling that we should have been on this before, but I have a feeling that Xavier Worthy is going to pass Hollywood Brown like the ship in the night over the course of the next 2 weeks. And that ADP for Worthy is going to go from 66 to 46, and you're going to have to be drafting him around the Higgins and Terry McLaurin tier, and Hollywood Brown might come back down a little bit more to the Calvin Ridley tier. So we just knocked out 2 players at once. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Kansas City Chiefs. I want to go out to the Chargers. I want to stay in the AFC West. And this is another competition here. I'm not going to name one name. I'm going to name 2 because it's a competition. This is what I want to watch. 10 players. Yep. Kimani Vidal and J.K. Dobbins. My boy Byron Lambert from Roster Watch is going to be going out to L.A. to go to the Rams, the Chargers, and the Raiders camps.
Tough
and
job.
I told him one thing. Tough
So
job.
brave.
Brutal job. Go to California, watch football.
Such a brave man.
And the one thing I said, this is all I want to know. This is it right here. Who's got the better legs?
I knew you were going to say, I think you were going to say Cavs, but yeah, I knew it. I knew it.
I'm not talking about going to the beach and seeing who's got the better legs, the longer legs, the bigger butt. I'm talking about when they get the carry and they get the handoff, and Kimani Vidal makes a cut and has some acceleration, has some burst through that hole, right off of Joe Alt's ass. Boom. And he just jogs it for a touchdown. You can tell he's fresh. And J.K. Dobbins takes that next carry. And I know people are saying, but Cody, don't forget about Gus Edwards. Shut up. J.K. Dobbins takes that next carry. I want to see if he's completely zapped. That's what I want to know. You'll know it. Yeah. Anybody that's watched football and anybody that's seen football live, when you see a running back that is fresh, and again, we're talking about Kimani Vidal, who's fresh off of Troy, fresh off of 328 carries. He should look perfect. He should look ready to. This should be Kimani Vidal's job. J.K. Dobbins takes that carry. He's only got, I don't even know what the number is, maybe 200 carries in his career. Coming off that Achilles injury, 25 years old, there should be plenty of tread left. If he recovered properly in 10 months, he should be fine. But if he's zapped, dude, I can't even tell you how much Kamani Vidal I'm going to have on my rosters this year in redraft. I can't even tell you, and I already have some in Dynasty. And the reason I overlap Gus Edwards is because we know what Gus Edwards is. Gus Edwards is going to be a nuisance to this backfield. He's going to rush for 700 yards. He's going to average 5 yards per carry. He's done it for 6 years now. He was super average at Miami. He's super average at Rutgers. Just what he does. He's going to be a really good back. But the lead and the fantasy one you'll want is going to be either Vidal or Dobbins. And that's what I want to figure out. Which one of these guys has the most juice in their legs? If Dobbins has any juice, they'll use him. Harbaugh's not scared to use somebody that's a little bit zapped. Corum was that last year. But I want to know which one of these guys has the better legs and that we can depend on going forward.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge key. There's a number of competitions, especially at the running back position, that will directly lead us to a league-winning player. And I know it might sound hyperbole as we speak about it in July, but that's the type of leg up we're trying to give by reading some of the tea leaves, watching some of these guys, and that's going to be a big one to watch. How does that backfield play out in terms of Vidal versus JK? Because we know, like you said, Gus Edwards is going to get his, but we all know what the upside is. It ain't there. It ain't there. With Kimani, Vidal, I see upside. I do. I'm actually going to stay in my neck of the woods with this next guy. I'm talking about the New England Patriot rookie receiver, Jaylen Polk. We've seen him. He's got a little bit of helium now. He's being taken in the early portion of round 11. He is the number 1 pass catcher coming off of the board for the New England Patriots. And I need to see not only a rapport with not one, but potentially 2 quarterbacks, because I think we see a lot of Brissett early. But is he just that alpha? You know, you and Alex, when we were at the draft house for Player Profiler last year, you guys mentioned his tenacity, his dog that he possesses, and he led a wide receiver room that had not 1, not 2, but 3 NFL players in it. So I need to see how that transpires here as the New England Patriots potential number 1 receiver, because I'm doing a little dive into his profile. And what I see is a guy that could be a win over replacement player. I think we could see him have a 1.03-ish warp. Last year, Jacoby Myers, who was 28th in warp, finished with 71 receptions, 800 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns, 13.7 fantasy points per game, wide receiver 24 on a points per game basis. If Jaylen Polk can emerge as that wide receiver, that number 1 type pass catcher for this offense, those modest numbers are absolutely on the table with a little bit of touchdown luck. And again, investing an 11th round pick, he's coming off the board as wide receiver 64 right now. We'll probably see that steamed up into wide receiver 55 when we really get cooking with these redraft leagues. But I want to know now, like, is this a guy that I'm going to be targeting and willing to reach potentially to round 8, round 9? But if I can get that win over replacement type player, that 1.04-ish warp, I am going to want me some Jaylen Polk. So for me, he's a massive, he's a narrative that I need to follow, a player that I am absolutely going to follow very, very closely. Matter of fact, on the sidelines type close, because I'm fucking going.
I don't really care who it is. If it's Polk or if it's Baker, if it's DeMario, you need to figure out which one is number 1, because they're all 3 in oblivion as far as ADP goes, and nobody really cares. Like, all 3 of these dudes being outside the top 60 is atrocious. And having no clear cut tells me that whichever one has the best rapport, which obviously has to like lean probably towards DeMario just because he's got an extra year under his belt, whichever one gets the best rapport or has the best rapport after the first 2 weeks of practice, so 2 weeks from today, could easily vault up into like the mid 40s. The Cortland Sutton, Curtis Samuel, Romeo Dobbs, Tyler Lockett. Like, I could sell myself on all of those names. Once you get up to the Jameson Williams, Brian Thomas, Deontay Johnson. It's a little tougher to sell. But if it's Polk, if it's Baker, if it's DeMario, I do think one of these guys takes over. You talked about being a dog. Like DeMario graded out very well last year. Both Baker and Polk graded out very well this year. And Polk was the leader in that Washington room. So he's done at the high level with a high-end quarterback that he had to create establish a connection with quickly and early. So I want to see that too. And what do you have any insight on when you're going to go? Are you going to go like this week and next week, like a day here and day there?
Yeah, I want to go. I'm gonna try to make it up there tomorrow, opening day, to get first look on it, and then I'd like to get one either probably in 2 weeks or no, 2 weeks I'll be at the expo. Yeah, expo. Maybe the week after that. I want to get one when when it's ramped up a little bit because I imagine it's going to be very, very whimsical, very fun at first, but I want to see the ramp up too. So I do want to get like an early and after, like a comparison. But reports, in this area are very pro Polk. And when you just look at the players, I think, Jacoby Brissett, what he's been successful with is, being hyper focused on one receiver. We saw Amari Cooper have a great season with Jacoby Brissett under the helm, as a signal call for most of that season. Pop Douglas, his upside is just limited with Baker there, Henry there, Polk there, Kendrick Bourne there. We're not going to see him get 140 targets to catch 110, 120 balls. And for him to exceed and really be that difference maker for like a warp type player, I don't see that with the skill set of DeMario. That's why I mentioned Polk exclusively, because it seems like he is going to be the front runner going into camp to be wide receiver one. And if he emerges as the go-to target, this is a guy that could eclipse 70 receptions, could get, push 850, 900 yards, and then we'll see where the touchdowns fall, with touchdown regression, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But he could get that top 30 points per game type of output at the wide receiver position, and getting him at 62 right now, or by the time this, it really heats up, say 55, great return on investment, where I just don't see it for Douglas or for Baker in year one. Baker's missed a lot of the early parts of practices, just getting things going. He was the later pick, and the Patriots targeted, honed in, and traded back because they were comfortable getting Jaylen Polk over Ladd McConkey.
I have a player that you brought up 850 to 900 receiving yards. This guy was right dead nuts in the middle of it last year. But first, I want to ask you a question, because this entire list of players is going ahead of him.
No, the answer is
have
no.
you looked at have you looked at the ADP of these wide receivers, and have you looked at the names of these ADPs? Wide receiver 13 through wide receiver 20. Have you looked at these ADPs?
Yeah, I've looked at them, but I'm not going to be able to recite them back to you.
Nico Collins is wide receiver 13. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk back-to-back. Waddle, I like. Mm-hmm. Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Michael Pittman. That's wide receiver 13 to 20. I don't have a clue. I think we can swear on this channel. I hope we can. I don't know. Do we get to do that now?
Yeah.
What the fuck tier? That's what that is. That's a what the fuck tier is that? I don't like when you draft, dude, and you're looking at what Houston has, and I love Tank Dell, and I love Diggs, and I love Nico. I was a big Nico fan when he came out. Wide receiver 13 for Nico is atrocious. Deebo and Ayuk back-to-back is fucking dumb. Jaylen Waddle, wide receiver 16. I respect it. I completely think that that's a fine ADP, especially with Tyreek Hill being wide receiver 1 or 2, depending on format. Mike Evans, 17. Respectable. So that's 2 respectable ones, Waddle and Evans right there. Cooper Kupp, think he's a bit low. Stephon Diggs, in this tier with Nico. Where is Tank Dell? That's the question. And then Michael Pittman right there at wide receiver 20, where very indifferent about him. Even your boy DJ Moore, very indifferent about both of those guys, given their situations. DJ Moore with the receivers, Pittman, they add Adonai, Richardson's healthy, Taylor's healthy. Like, they're going to run the hell up. They might run the ball more than anybody in the NFL except for the Raiders. And then you get this list of guys after this. And this is my problem with that whole tier, is this list of receivers right here is pretty epic, in my opinion. Devonta Smith, 22. DK Metcalf, 23. Malik Neighbors, 24. Zay Flowers, 25. Shit, you might as well put Tank in there. You can put T. Higgins in there. If you really wanted to get horny, you could put George Pickens in there, because guess what? That dude's about to be the alpha in Pittsburgh. And if Amari Cooper could stay healthy, you could make a point. Anyway, that's between 5 and 9 receivers that you could make an argument for over a good majority of those dudes above it. Personal thoughts. And I think 5 months from now, Devonta Smith finishes ahead of all those guys. Neighbors, if he clicks early, could finish ahead of all those guys. And Flowers. Zay Flowers is my guy. Long way around. Long way to get to my guy. But I got the Zay.
Yeah. Dude, let me say this before you dive into it real quick. I was talking to a buddy of mine. Side note, you get a lot of these here on the Hurdle. And he was trying to tell me that he was calling out Zay Flowers' praises before anybody else. And I said, brother, there's literal proof. You need to go back to over a calendar year ago and listen to me and my man Cody call him a young AB. I was like, you need to. I told him, brother, get in line. Just wanted to share that with you, Cody.
This is your boy go to Boston College too?
No, but he's
found out about him. I'm just teasing.
That's what I said. That's why I said, like, you can't just wake up 2 weeks ago and be like, "Oh, you hear about this guy Zay Flowers? Pretty good."
This is the thing, though. But we're so like people that work in the space, like we do, and like everybody that is tapped in and consumes the content as well as works in it. Your brains are maniacal. You consume this shit on the daily. So there's friends in your life, and everybody knows this, and everybody has them. That, and Tiger's even one of them. Tiger is my little brother. He's 14. And he won't pick up on shit until like 4 days after it happens. Like a trade could happen, whatever. He's probably watching. Shout out to you, Tiger. I love you. You know I do. I'm just explaining something. You won't pick up on something until 3 days after it happens. And Tiger will go, hey, did you see that? Did you see Keenan Allen was traded to the Bears? And I said, brother, what is my job? What is my job? And it's just like something like personally, and you understand this, and everybody else that like is consumed in this shit every day understands. It's like, you know, this shit within minutes of it happening. Mm-hmm. But then there's so many people out there that don't. They don't consume it until like their draft happens. Oh, damn, the Bears got a bunch of receivers now. Like, it's like that.
Right, for sure.
So like your buddy is like, did you see the Zay Flowers guy? Like, no offense to your buddy. He just happens to be a dude that just isn't probably like, you know, maniacal like you.
He's getting there. And I will say this, shout out to him because he took the mantle from me because he said Zay Flowers top 10 receiver this year. So I said, hey, I said, you're the Zay Flowers guy now, I guess. You can take the mantle. So, like I said, he's getting maniacal. So you're right. Once you get revving going, you can get maniacal. But I'm sorry. I took us on a 10-minute tangent. Zay Flowers, you're excited for him in training camp, as am I.
No, it happens. It happens. And Barry hit it right in the head. He said, we often forget about it. We're in a massive, massive niche. So I won't go much longer on Zay. Y'all get my point. I think that this whole tier is fucking flipped. I think receiver 22 to 29 should be like receiver 13 to 20. And then you can sprinkle in your Evans and your Waddle and your, you know, whatever, even Cup. But I think the rest of that whole tier is misplaced, leading by Zay Flowers. I want to see what Zay Flowers looks like this year. One more year in the system, one more year connected to his boy Lamar, one more year of age on Mark Andrews. Talked to a source at the SEC Media Days that was a part of Zay Flowers' pre-draft process, and he was like, yo, we are on the cusp of Zay being like one of the faces of the NFL. And we're on the cusp of Zay being the leader of the Ravens. And him saying those two sentences, Matty, one of the faces of the NFL and one of the leaders of the Ravens, leaders of the Ravens have notoriously been defenders. Always. Ray, Ed, Suggs,
yep.
Calais Campbell, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Peters. Can I keep going? Like Patrick Queen, like, you know what I'm saying? And on offense, the last couple of years has been Lamar. He's been the dude. If Zay could somehow be that guy, shit. And then he took the next step and he basically said, I could, he's on the cusp of being one of the overall faces of the NFL. And the first name that came to my mind was AB. And if we're on the cusp of an AB type fucking breakout, which is something we've literally talked about, like you just said, a year ago, boy, oh boy. And I'm just saying, I'm going to go up to Owings Mill and I'm going to watch this fucking practice. And I don't think it'll be very hard to tell if it's going to be AB or not. And I'm fucking excited.
And I feel bad for those that decide to say, I'll pass on Zay. Give me more Rashad Bateman. I pity the fool on those who end up making that move. But I agree. Zay Flowers is he's ready to take off. We're going to see a massive year. Before I get into my next player, I just want to answer this real quick. Tank Dell's ADP is coming off the board right around 35 as wide receiver 25 currently right now. The guy that I'm looking to really, I don't know if I'm excited about this guy, but I got to know what it's going to be like in this offense because this offense lost their perennial wide receiver one. I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills. And the player that I need to see in training camp is Dalton Kincaid because as of now, you're having to make the choice of Mark Andrews or Dalton Kincaid. You're having to make the choice of taking Dalton Kincaid around before George Kittle, 2 rounds before Evan Ingram. And we look at tight end, obviously, warp charts will tell you. In most formats, tight ends aren't difference makers. You need a 2-point, TEP, a full point TEP, 2 points total to really see a difference maker. But in that vacuum, you still want good players. You want players that are hard to replace. And when you look at last year's tight end landscape, it was a grouping of 6, and then there was Mount Kilimanjaro when it fell to number 7. And you're telling me that I have to make the decision of Dalton Kincaid, who hasn't done it, or Mark Andrews, who's been a destroyer at the position, or guys like George Kittle and Evan Ingram, both guys top 6 in tight end warp. They were above the hill there. They actually provided some value in our redraft leagues. I need to know. Are they using this guy like crazy? Is the rapport off the hook? Is he following Josh Allen everywhere they go? Is he connecting as a receiver? Is he connecting out of the slot? Are they drawing up plays out wide? Are they literally creating the Georgia Bulldogs fucking offense around this guy like they did with Brock Bowers down there for the Bulldogs? I need this type of questions to be answered because the investment is so high. For the portfolio drafters and redraft, fine. They're going to have their shares. Don't care about those. I'm connecting to the casuals. I want to talk to the ones that are about the home leagues. And you got to know in your redraft leagues, is Dalton Kincaid a fucking landmine? And we'll know early, just like you said. When it comes to Zay Flowers, we'll know early if he's AB. We'll know early if this offense is going to be catered and orchestrated around the second-year tight end. Big investments need a lot of work, a lot of grinding to make the right choice.
His strength of schedule is fucking brutal. But I will tell you right now, I am not drafting any Mark Andrews, nor am I drafting any. I draft a little bit of McBride. I'm not drafting any Kittle because it all belongs to Dalton Kincaid right now.
You taking the magic leap?
I don't give a fuck, dude. There's like Curtis Samuel's going to get some ops. They think Khalil Shakir is going to get some ops. Keon Coleman might not get any, which is going to break my heart. But Dalton Kincaid, this is his offense, dude. This is his.
Gotta be.
He's. I'm not going to tap him. He's Kelsey, but like this is his opportunity to be the next. We'll just put it that way. And I also think McBride's in a good spot to do that as well. But I love where Kincaid's coming off. The last player we've talked about We've talked about 10 guys actually, but my list in order, I'm down to last numbered pick 10 number right now. I don't care whether I have conviction or not. If there are potential landmines, that's a sell high kind of player to me, says Koopa Troopa. Maybe it's my strategy, but I think someone might be a landmine. I'm staying away. That's fair.
That's how I feel. I'm with you
That's
there,
it.
Coop. When it comes to my redraft schedules, I like to err on the side of safety with some things. So we kind of think alike there.
I'll tell you who's not a landmine. And this is the last player. 10 players to watch during NFL training camp. My last stop will be in Virginia for the Washington Redskins.
You're going to get us canceled on our first episode at South Harmon? You son of a bitch.
And the reason being is that Jaden Daniels has the opportunity to be the kingmaker.
Oh, yeah. Late round supremacy right here.
Late round supremacy. We haven't talked about any quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams going back to back. I love Caleb, of course. I think he has the opportunity with the talent around him to do more than what Stroud did last year. And so this conversation, you could easily lump Caleb into this. If you feel better about Caleb, take Caleb. I don't really need to see Caleb, though. What I need to see is Jaden Daniels with Dotson, with Ertz, with McLaurin, with Eckler, with this offensive line. I want to see if Jaden Daniels is going to be the league maker. I want to see if he's going to be Konami plus. I want to see, because Konami plus, maybe like, if he had some more meat on the bone, you could say he's a better rusher than Lamar. They're both very creative. Lamar's got a little more rubber ligament to him.
Yeah, he's
But
more
Daniels
of a freak. Yeah.
Correct. But Daniels has the arm that Lamar wishes he had. And if Daniels can put these things together in this preseason, this fall camp, he could be the league maker that you get late in drafts as your quarterback. You just ship it to Boston. Everyone's like, I want Stroud. I want Mahomes. I want Burrow. And you're like, deuces.
Yeah.
And you just ship it. And you come out with Jaden Daniels. And one of the better strategies I like in 1QB, not maybe one of the better strategies, but one of the sneaky strategies is taking advantage of strength of schedule. And Washington has Tampa, the Giants, Cincinnati, Arizona the first 4 weeks. He could come out and annihilate September.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Will Levis, who you can also get that late, a little bit later, who's got the juiciest late part of the season. From week 8 on, it's just sign me up and jerk me off. That's what that all looks like. Right?
Sign me up and jerk
So
oh my God, that's my wife.
Jaden Daniels and King. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing, if he can connect with McLaurin, with Dotson, with this offense, and he can kind of raise this whole offense up to be something that we have not seen in the last few years. Matty Kiwoom, that's 10 players. Naji Harris, Xavier Legette, Kamani Vidal versus J.K. Dobbins, Jaylen Polk, and the boys in New England, Zay Flowers, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Dalton Kincaid, and the one and only Jaden Daniels. Can he be the kingmaker? That's The Hurdle, episode 86. We appreciate each and every one of you guys that tuned in, that tapped in the chat on this beautiful Tuesday. The show, every single Tuesday, live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Matty Kiwoom and myself will be here live on the South Harmon Fantasy Football Channel. This is The Hurdle. That's at Matty Kiwoom, at MattyKiwoom. I am Cody Carpentier. You can find me over on X as well. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll see you next week. Peace.